You guys, I want you to promise me that you are not going to be upset. You know, today I told myself that on this video, I am not going to shout. I'm not going to lose my temper. I'm going to be a good boy. I'm going to be calm despite what I'm going to be reporting on. It's 2024. South Africans are looking forward to the elections to actually making their voices heard. A lot of people are sick and tired about where the country is going. I know a lot of people, man, who say, man, we are sick and tired of all of this thing that is happening in South Africa, man. We are ready for change. Some people are ready for change, but it looks like majority of South Africans, man, are not ready for change. But that is the topic for another day. I want us to focus again on this gentleman, this Madala, this irritant that goes around news channel to news channel, podcast to podcast, telling South Africans that we must postpone the 2024 elections. Guys, I'm talking about Pali Lehohla. You remember last time this Madala went to SABC and said that the South Africans must postpone the 2024 elections. Instead of having the elections, we must have the frank dialogue. I came on this platform and I shouted and I told Madala that, man, when you tell South Africans that we must have a dialogue instead of the elections, man, you are taking the rights of South Africans away from them. You are telling South Africans that they don't have the right to decide on where the country goes. This is exactly what you are asking South Africa to do. Because when you tell South Africans that we must have a frank dialogue instead of having the elections, you are basically giving ANC a leeway to continue running the country when we are having this conversation that you didn't talk about when the ANC was still enjoying majority of the support in the country. The ANC was enjoying majority of the support in the country for such a long time. These people, man, were breaking down the country, while the majority of poor people in this country supported them. Today, a lot of people, man, are suffering under the ANC rule, and people are getting sick and tired of the African National Congress. You have this man every week on a new podcast telling South Africans that we must postpone the 2024 elections. It seems like the outrage that he got and the backlash that he got from SABC, it was not enough. It was not enough. And now, recently, he went to State of the Nation to speak with Mike Sham and to keep telling South Africans that we must postpone the 2024 elections. Who the hell is this man working for? Why are these people, man, trying to censor South Africans? Why are these people trying to take South Africans' rights away from them? According to him, instead of voting, we must have these conversations, these dialogues. So we must not hold the politicians accountable. All of these people in parliament, they must continue enjoying the benefit in parliament. They must continue enjoying everything while the people of this country are having a frank dialogue. So if we are going to postpone the elections right now for this frank dialogue of his, how the hell do we know that that frank dialogue is going to work? How the hell do we know that we are going to reach a consensus as a country that, guys, this is where we are going to go? And how are we going to determine that the country has actually agreed on which direction to go? I don't know, man. Who is this man working for? Who is this man working for, man? This is one of those things that actually upsets me. It really upsets me, man, because when someone tries to take the rights of South Africans away, I get really upset because I can see that he's trying to put it in a nice way that we should postpone the elections and we must have this frank dialogue about the future of our countrymen. Where was this frank dialogue when Jacob Zuma was still the president of the ANC? Where was this frank dialogue when Thabo Mbeki was still the president of the ANC? Now everything is crumbling down. These people are telling us about a frank dialogue instead of the elections. Who the hell is this man working for, man? And shout out to Mike Sham for actually confronting this man about this issue, man. I'm sick and tired. I'm honestly getting sick and tired of this man, week in, week out, on a new platform, telling South Africans that we must postpone the 2024 elections, man. South Africans are not looking forward to postponing the 2024 election. What the hell is this man talking about?
Everything that you're talking about, we've known since after the last local government election, which took place in 2021, with the general election 3 years hence at that point in time. Where was your voice then when we would have had enough time? Let's just say you convened the super conference, right, to get the best people into the positions. Why now just ahead of an election? This it sort of smacks of...
I mean, like the fact that this man failed to talk about this frank dialogue when Jacob Zuma was the president of the country, when Jacob Zuma was basically breaking down the country in front of everyone's eyes. The man never said anything about South Africa having this frank dialogue. What is it exactly, man? What is it exactly that this man want from the people of this country? Why are you going around telling the people of this country that we must postpone the elections? Do the people of this country understand that if we postpone the election once, we will never go to the polls again? We will never go to the polls again. If you are going to allow ANC to stop you from going to the elections, you are not going to have elections in South Africa ever again. You are not going to have them again. So I don't know who is this man trying to fool, because right now we are not fools. We are not fools. We understand what is going on. These people, man, are trying to get rid of the elections. They're trying to get rid of the elections, man. If South Africans allow these people to actually get rid of the elections one time, South Africans will never ever go to the elections ever again. There will always be a reason for South Africans not going to the elections. And this is what actually upsets me. It upsets me because I can see what is happening. I know what is happening, man. Even in the countries that have terrible dictators, this is how it started. It started smoothly. It started smoothly. You don't simply go into the beast mode and now telling the people that you don't have freedom of speech. Now you cannot say this. All of these podcasts we are closing. No, that's not how it goes. That's not how it goes. It goes smooth. You are starting by postponing the elections. Before you know it, every election, you have reason not to have the elections. You have the reason not to have the elections. Even with the free speech, man, even with the free speech, they don't go beast mode in one day. No, they start with smaller regulations. Smaller regulations. We are protecting they start small. But before you know it, man, you no longer have freedom of speech. You no longer have freedom of speech. So what the hell is this man trying to do? What the hell is he trying to do?
Local government election, which took place in 2021, with the general election 3 years hence at that point in time. Where was your voice then, when we would have had enough time? Let's just say you convened the super conference, right, to get the best people into the positions. Why now, just ahead of an election? This it sort of smacks of a similar problem that I have with these business organizations that are now going to assist the government. We've understood that the government couldn't keep the lights on. Why? Where was the voices when the decline was apparent, right? And the outcome was apparent. Do you know what I mean? And I'm not talking about go back to the start. I'm not talking about 2007 when people were going to Polokwane to commit national suicide. I'm talking about the outcome of 2021. The ANC has slipped to 46%. Every indication at that point is that they will not improve, which they haven't, right? Where was the voice then to say, while we've got the structures that we've got in place, we've got a 3-year gap to sort this out before the next election. So we don't need a pause of politics. What we need is the super conference, which now takes place, and all us clever things will get inside a room and decide that, tertiary education is more important than basic education. Fees must fall as a good item and have unemployed graduates rather than freeing up the economy. Put those cases forward in a period where we could actually do something about it. Instead, everything comes to the fore now, just ahead of the election. It seems like a stalling tactic on behalf of the ANC.
No. It can't be. I'm sure it is not. The one thing is, I've been, this whole thing around cohesion, for instance. I've been at it for a while, and how probably it can be done, and done using the tools of science. That is cohesion. And part of it is what I've talked about at university, because in 2016, when I was making my submission to the Higher Commission, I said, this is what should be done, because we have this kind of problem of social cohesion. The second part of it is certainly looking at other instruments that can bring people together. I'm no longer a statistician general. Of course, when I was a statistician general, my position doesn't allow me to go into policy, and correctly so. because there is a moral hazard. When you measure, you can't go and comment on policy, because when the policies don't work, you are likely to change the numbers. That's the moral hazard you have. So that barred me from, although longevity allowed me the latitude to say a few things that the government may have felt very uncomfortable with. I used to do that quite often. But I'm arguing that at times it is important when things get precipitated, and an election which is around the corner can precipitate this crisis. You look at Abraham Lincoln discussing the issue of slavery and war. He said, war and slavery are two.
I feel like he's not answering Mike Sham's question. Where were you then? The question is straight up, where were you then? You are talking about the fact that the countryman is lacks direction. We need to fix this, we need to fix that. But the question is, where were you then? Where were you? We are not talking about all of these things. And I have to agree with Mike Sham, man. It sounds like something that comes from the African National Congress. And the African National Congress would actually love South Africa postponing the elections. There is nothing that the ANC would actually love than postponing the elections. Because they would have seen that, okay, if we can postpone the elections once, South Africans will never have the elections again. Guys, I need you to be careful of this. If we allow these people to postpone the elections, South Africa will never have elections ever again. You need to understand this. You need to understand this, man. You cannot allow this Madala to actually confuse. This Madala was working for the government for such a long time. He has benefited from working with the government. He has benefited from working with the government. And clearly, this man is working with African National Congress. That's why he doesn't care about the backlash that he's getting week in, week out, talking about postponing the elections. Guys, you need to understand, if you allow these people to postpone the elections once, you will never go to the poll ever again. You will never cast your votes ever again. He's talking about Abraham Lincoln and all that. But the question is, where were you then? Where were you then? You never spoke about this thing before. You never spoke about this thing before. Now you are telling us about Abraham Lincoln, talking about the slavery and all of these things, trying to sound smart. And do not fall for these, guys. Do not fall for this. Do not fall for this.
We shall not stop war until slavery stopped. And I think we are in that kind of position where we have to use the leverage of the imminence of an election to precipitate this kind of discourse.
And you know, one thing that actually upsets me about this whole thing is that this man, instead of suggesting something for the politicians, instead of saying, all of the politicians in South Africa, man, we're going to require you to come to this arena one day. All of us, we're going to be locked in one room. All of us, all of the politicians from all political parties, and say, guys, do we want to help South Africa to move forward or not? All of these people must be forced to come to the table and actually provide solutions and why people actually voted for them. They must actually prove why people voted for them to go to parliament. All of these people, they must be locked in one room and actually be forced to provide the solutions that are actually going to help the country. Instead of actually doing that with the politicians, no. The first thing that comes to these people's mind is to censor people. Censor South Africans. Do not hold the politicians accountable. Censor South Africans. It's fine, the politicians, they can do whatever they want to do. But tell South Africans that they cannot cast their votes. Politicians can do whatever they want to do. But when it's time for South Africans to actually hold these people accountable, no. Let's not have the elections. Let's have the frank dialogue. This frank dialogue this man is talking about, man, is providing a leeway for politicians. South Africans, men, are being censored right now. They want to censor South Africans. They don't want to hear what South Africans think. They don't want to hear what South Africans feel. They are not interested in that. They are trying their level best to make sure that South Africans will not go to the polls in 2024. Guys, be very careful. Be very careful. I'm going to repeat it again. If you allow these people to postpone the elections once, you are not going to the elections ever again. That is a fact.
In order to make ourselves aware that whatever choices that we are going to make are choices that are not going to deliver, except choices that say we have chosen and we'll live with the consequences. Consequences that we have hitherto not digested. Now, coming to this issue of this team of business people, this is the worst crime that I've ever seen in the world, where business comes and says, we are coming to help you. In 2020, that was the time that government should have accepted help. But government was arrogant. One, arrogant because of ignorance. Now, they are in a corner and business is picking the winners. That's their interest. There's nothing to do. I mean, we have created a situation where the less important, such electricity, rail, and all those things are not that important. I'm not saying that if they were, or rather, they rise to importance because we have created a crisis around them.
Who? Stop saying we. Stop saying we. Stop saying we, because when you say we, it's almost as if you sound like Ramaphosa right now. You know, when something breaks down, Ramaphosa says it's our collective responsibility. All of us are responsible for ESCOM breaking down. All of us are responsible for Transnet breaking down. This is the logic of Ramaphosa. Stop saying we. Say the African National Congress government. The African National Congress government. Stop saying the we. We is the people. Say the African National Congress government. Don't be like Ramaphosa. I mean, you know Ramaphosa, man, is trying to hold all of us accountable for everything these people do. Comrades are spending the money. Comrades are wasting money. And the president comes out and says, guys, it's our collective responsibility. Why is this man saying we? We? Who is we? It is not our fault. The people of this country did not break down the state-owned entities. The people of this country, man, they did not break down all of this. It is not our fault. It is the fault of the politicians. You are failing to hold the politicians accountable. Now you are trying to get the South Africans from actually casting their votes. You are trying to take South Africans' votes away from them. You are trying to take South Africans' votes away from them. You want to give politicians the leeway to do everything they want, but you don't want South Africans to have their vote. South Africans, you must never allow this.
We saw rail being stripped. We saw electricity being looted, everything. And then having created that crisis, now these things become important. And they become the three things that the business goes there, and then the oracle gives them all those three things. And that's where they are going to loot because there is confusion. More looting is going to happen with business because of that, because they'll pick the winners and they leave the rest to society to continue suffering without electricity.
He's worried about looting right now. You are only worried about looting right now. You didn't care about the looting of the ANC for the past 30 years. You are only worried about the looting right now. This is why I don't understand. Why are you going from platform to platform to tell South Africans to postpone the elections? I don't understand. I don't even understand why you go from platform to platform telling South Africans we must postpone the elections. You come with these insane reasons why South Africans must postpone the elections, but none of the reasons that you talk about, they make any sense. You don't make any sense. There's no sense in telling South Africans we must postpone the elections. There's no sense. There's no sense. It's nonsense.
South Africa at the moment, the ruling class, which is business and some government bureaucrats like myself, are part of the 2 million households that have private medical aid, private this, private that, private that. The 15 million don't have that. And under the circumstances, this 15 million is condemned.
So now
and they are just
we know that
50 million houses. They are just voting.
I mean, like Mike Sham should cut this man. Try to take charge of this interview, man. You are letting this man ramble, making no sense.
Yep. Now we know that the last you mentioned Cadessa, because I presume that's an idea. To get to the general election of 1994 took many years of negotiation. If we were to ask for this pause, how long would you see this process taking? Because I couldn't see this being done in a month.
It's going to take forever. This is exactly what I'm talking about. It's going to take forever. If you allow these people to postpone the elections once, you will never cast your vote ever again. Never.
No. I think if we were thinking straight as a nation, and the ruling party thinks for the nation, they would say we are rising in January. We want these discussions and negotiations to take place. We are giving ourselves another 3 months. We are no longer a ruling party. We'll install something that is interim to facilitate this 3-4 months hard work. And once that hard work has come, it is for the political parties to say now, do we understand this hard work that is on the table? And then we can go and campaign.
It's a lie. It's a lie. 3 months. It is a lie. It is a lie. Guys, if you allow this dialogue to start, if you dare allow this dialogue to start, man, this dialogue is going to take the next 10, 20 years. It is not going to stop. It is not going to stop. If you allow this dialogue to start, it is not going to stop. He says 3 months. 3 months. 3 months. It's a lie. It's a lie. And how do we know after 3 months that we would have reached a consensus? How do we know? And how would these people know that majority of the people in the country, they actually agree with whatever that will be signed there as a consensus? How would they know in 3 months? How would they actually determine that majority of the people of the country, they actually agree with this thing that they call as a consensus? There's no way that you can find out. The only way that you can find out is by a referendum. It's by a referendum, telling people to go to the polls. You are telling people not to go to the polls, but you are saying in 3 months, we would actually have the consensus. How? How would you know that 60 million people actually agree with this thing that you guys are writing? It makes no sense.
Easier said than done. But for me, we can still do the election before August, which is allowable maximum, for as long as we understand the precipice we are facing at this point in time.
Well, Dr. Pali Lehohla, an interesting view. Thank you so much for engaging us and sharing your wisdom today. It's been fascinating, and I'm sure everybody that watches the State of the Nation will appreciate a view that says South Africa is in a dire condition and we need to get the adults in the room discussing the problem before we go to elections and make the situation worse by having unstable coalitions. Perhaps we need to return to the negotiation table. Everybody can understand what the important issues are. Dr. Pali Lehohla, thank you so much for joining us on the...
So guys, what are your thoughts, man? What are your thoughts on this man going around telling South Africans that we must postpone the elections, man? I'm starting to get pissed off at him. I'm honestly starting to get pissed off at him. Because I don't know why should South Africans suffer. Why should we suffer? Why should we suffer for the actions of these people, man? These people, man, are running the country like a tuck shop. Now that the chicken are coming home to roost, no, they're trying to punish us. Do not fall for that 3 months nonsense. It is a lie. That 3 month thing of his, it is a lie. I'm saying this once again, guys. If you allow these people to postpone the elections one more time, you are not going to go to the polls ever again. Guys, please tell me what you think on the comment section. Don't forget to hit that like button, and the most important part is subscribe. My name is Thomas Mabas, and I will see you next time. Bye bye.